Hello guys! First of all, let me apologize as today's video and content quality may be even lower than usual. The thing is, I am recording in the hospital with no tools and snoring roommates. But hey, don't worry, I'm fine. It's just this bacteria got into my eye and I lost the vision of my right eye. But I still got enough eyeballs to look at the 54 squares. 64. Oh no, the brain damage is becoming apparent too. Anyways, today I would like to brag about this position which can lead to super tricky Yin Yang Gambit. And don't worry, I will show precisely how to get this on the board, but first let me just showcase just how tricky this can get if accepted. So black here played knight to f6 to put pressure on this center pawn which is already being attacked by this light square bishop. And white, instead of trying to support this pawn with d3 or something, rather plays this popular move rook to b1. Rook b1. Now with this move it attacks this undefended bishop, which encourages black to just go ahead and capture on e4, which is the most played move here. Now of course white captures the bishop and black recaptures with their knight. Overextending arguably, but don't worry, because with our next move we are going to maintain the balance of getting the knights overextended and we play knight to e5. Are you getting excited yet? Alright, so let's go ahead, turn on this stockfish and see some moves. So right now, the only correct move for black to play is queen to c7, as you can see. But what would happen if they play some other moves? So for example, if they get scared of our knight on e5 and try to harass it away with some pawns. For example, pawn to f6. As you can see, losing blunder. Our queen goes to h5 with the check. They can only block it with this pawn, which we are going to capture, and poor black cannot even capture our knight back because it's a checkmate. You see, the engine is suggesting that they move the queen out of the way so their king gets some room to breathe, but I believe like a more human move would be to move this rook away from the danger. But now we hit them with this knight back to e5 with a discovery check. They can only block this with the rook. Now we snap this pawn and once again we are threatening this checkmate and the engine wants to move the queen out of the way. But let's see, for example, something like rook to g7 is a checkmate in two moves. Yeah. Alright, let's go back. Let's see what happens if they try to use the d-pawn to harass our knight. Well, this is even worse for them as they are exposing their king on the queen side and we can deliver this deadly bishop to b5 check. After they block it with their knight, we are going to capture the knight and they have to give up their queen on the next turn. So that's not playable for them. Alright, what about they don't want to kick our knight away? What if they would like to go for some development and they play pawn to e6 to open up their dark square bishop? Well, in this case we are going to play queen to f3 and look at this juicy diagonal that we are having here. Yeah, this is already lost for black as well. Now, on top of that we are also threatening this checkmate, so they have to push pawn to f6. With this move they prevent the checkmate and they support their knight on e4. But don't worry, the knight is not going anywhere as it is pinned. We are going to pile up on this poor knight. And here they really need to be careful because if they play just some random move, for example bishop to e7, we are going to grab this knight and of course they cannot capture back as their pawn is also pinned, preventing this checkmate. We are going to pick up the rook. Yeah, alright, let's go back. So actually all the pawn pushes, no matter which pawn they choose, are going to be losing blunders. It's also a6 and h6. Also b6, which is like a little bit playable. Yeah, but don't worry. What about some other moves and not pawn pushes? Well, for example, the most popular move here is just retrieving the knight back to f6. Well, this one is also already a losing blunder, once again thanks to queen to f3. And you see, this diagonal is just such a beast for us. Here their best shot is to play knight to c6, get the knights traded, but get hit queen captures on c6 with a check. Yes, they can block this with their knight, but our pieces are just going to be very quick with piling up the pressure against this poor knight. I still suck with these arrows. Okay, what is funny is after queen to f3, four guys that reached this position played pawn to d5. Yes, it stops our queen from capturing the rook, but it just simply allows bishop to b5 check, and once the knight blocks, we are just going to capture the knight. And yeah, everybody made the mistake of capturing back with their knight and getting checkmated in return. Okay, so let's go back. Even worse is retrieving the knight back to d6. For some reason, I believe because from f6 it was at least able to help with defending the d7 square. Anyways, kind of a playable move is also knight to c6 right away. So let's see this one. This is only going to be like plus 1 point something, but it's still super tricky for black to handle, because we are going to first of all exchange the knights, give them double pawns, and then we will bring our bishop all the way to a6. And with this move, we have a strong threat of playing bishop to b7, which would be just winning for us, hitting the rook, hitting this pawn, which would lead to a very nasty check. So they really need to be careful and not play any random move. Like, for example, this would be, as you can see, lost for them. They have to play either knight back to d6, you see, to keep an eye on this square, or also playable is rook to b8, which is funny because it doesn't really stop us from bringing our bishop to b7, but now to keep the pawn protected, they have to voluntarily bone cloud their king. And you know you're doing your opening well when you make your opponents bone cloud. Yeah, but even if they find this right solution, we still pile up the pressure on this c6 pawn. They have to defend this with the queen, and now we just simply get castled. We are finishing our development, and black is still far away from getting castled. And actually, it's the only correct plan for them from here to get quickly castled. They need to make room for the dark square bishop, of course, but with this move, we are just simply not allowing the bishop to move, as the g7 pawn is now our target, and they have to waste yet another move, preventing the capture on g7, at which point we can now target c5 pawn. Yes, they can get castled, but we just collected our pawn back, and we just have much better activity and better position. Alright guys, now before moving on, please, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like or subscribe or something, because the doctor said if this video reaches 1000 likes, they will give me a prosthetic eye with built-in chessboard recognition and built-in Stockfish 16. So basically I will become the human Stockfish. So yeah, please do that. Alright, thanks. Now let's see what's happening if they find the first correct move and they play queen to c7. So, first of all, as you can see, we are going to shock our opponents with knight captures on f7. But let me just turn off the stockfish for this one, because I would like you to try to come up with a solution for black in this position. So there is one correct move for black that they should play, and it is not king captures on f7. Yeah, if king captures on f7, we are going to play queen to f3 check. And now black has a couple of options. If the knight blocks the check, well, then this rook falls, which is bad for them, as I'm bad with these arrows. Alright, the knight cannot block this check. If the king hides on g8, then we are going to capture this knight. We are on the rook, remember? So they have to protect the rook with playing knight to c6. And now we go bishop to c5 check. They have no other option but to block this with their pawn, at which point we are going to sacrifice our bishop for 2 pawns, because in this position their only legal move is blocking the check with the queen, and we can collect our piece back. And in this position we are up 2 pawns in a winning position. And the third option that they have is to play king to e8. And now we are going to do, you know what? We are simply going to play bishop to d3 and let black self-destruct. Because, well, we are hitting the knight with 2 pieces. The knight is speed, it cannot move. So what do? Well, naturally, they protect the knight with their pawn. But now queen to h5 happens, it's a check, they block with the g-pawn, and now we capture on d5, and this is now not pinning, this is now forking. Oh man, just ignore the arrows. Okay, let's go back. So if they cannot capture the knight on f7, what should they do? Well, if you are too lazy to figure it out for yourself, let's turn on the stockfish. So the correct solution is queen to f4. With this move, black is threatening checkmate of his own, and also threatening this knight with the queen. So this is the correct solution. Now we have to play queen to f3. We have to trade the queens, but wait, let's just turn off the stockfish once again. After we recapture the queen with our g-pawn, now look at this position. Well, what's happening? Our knight is hanging, their knight is hanging, but also their rook is hanging. So what should they do? Well, it seems obvious they have to grab this knight, because otherwise they would lose their rook. But guess what? This is once again incorrect, and if we turn on the stockfish, this is already much better for white once again, namely because of these captures, and now I don't know what happens next, but I feel like knight to c6 looks like a pretty good move, after which we can bring our rook to a very active square, hitting this pawn, and they cannot even like try to protect it. It gets weird. Yeah, just check it out on your own. Let's go back. So this is the final trick of the position. So in this position, after we recaptured the queen, they have to play this really, really weird desperado move. They have to play knight captures on d2. Because now they are actually hitting our rook on b1. And this is where we are going to capture the knight, and they can capture our knight, and we end up in a position which is around equal, slightly better for white. But also we have a bishop pair, and also we still have castling rights. Yeah, so this is still kind of an opening victory for us, even though black found all the best moves in this position. So just to see this one more time, knight to d5, they have to find queen to c7, then we can sacrifice seemingly our knight on f7, they have to find this only move, queen to f4, and after this queen trade, now they have to find this knight sack on d2. What a weird combination for them to find, and just one mistake for them and the game should be lost. Alright, now for the people that made it this far into the video, I am going to reveal how to get this gambit on the board. And you are not going to be very happy about it, I guess, but it is pawn to e4. Let's turn off this stockfish. You have to face the Sicilian, and you have to play the wing gambit. I don't know why, but people just don't like to play the wing gambit. And on top of it, they need to actually decline our gambit with pawn to b6, which happens like 1 in 10 of the wing gambit games, statistically. Now after this exchange happens, you play knight to f3, and here they have to go for either knight to f6 or the second most played move, bishop to b7. So they are hitting our pawn. We go knight to c3 to protect our pawn, and here they have to play knight to f6. And this is the position that we started. Now we go rook to b1, they capture, 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 knight to d5. People are reluctant to play the wing gambit, but it is just such a nasty opening and such a like a direct way of dealing with the Sicilian. So I highly encourage anybody to try this wing gambit. And you know what? I've got already like almost an hour of content on my channel explaining what to do after they accept the gambit, and also what to do if they decline it with pawn to b6. Just so many traps and really trappy lines. So hopefully you will check it out. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Have a nice time. Have fun. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.